Hello and welcome back to J.P.s World of Wrestling. I am your man, J.P. Well, there's a little something different. I cut my hair. Oh yes, and I got glasses. Now I don't necessarily need them while I'm doing the videos or anything, but I do see a little bit better with them on. But anyway, actually there's a little bit of a glare, so I'll just go ahead and take them off. Anyway, what are we talking about today? Well, I thought that I would take a little bit of time to talk about the first couple of Survivor Series. We just had Thanksgiving. And by the way, I hope all of you had a really great Thanksgiving. I hope the food was really great and you had a great time with family and all that. But anyway, I just watched the first couple of Survivor Series just a few days ago, and it was pretty, I enjoyed them. I enjoyed watching them. They were both from Richfield Coliseum, or from the Richfield Coliseum of Richfield, Virginia, and they both had kind of the concept of, teams of five, 5-on-5 elimination tag. And the interesting thing about both of them is on both of them, they had a huge match, like a 20-man tag match, where 5 tag teams against 5 5 babyface or good guy tag teams against 5 heel or bad guy tag teams on both of them. Now, the first year, the Killer Bees and the Young Stallions won the match. I think the Killer Bees eventually pinned Demolition, I think. But the second year, the Powers of Pain won after they pinned the Conquistadors. But we'll get to that in a second. So, in 1987, Survivor Series is kind of a new thing. It was kind of a different kind of a concept. It was a, elimination tag. And so I liked it. Like I've said, it was never really my favorite event, but I did like the concept. I did like that because it was different. It was just a different kind of a concept. Now, from what I understand, just from watching or listening to different various podcasts, is that at the time, NWA or WCW put on a pay-per-view every year on Thanksgiving called Starrcade. Well, Vince McMahon was trying to go strong into the pay-per-view game, and he told the pay-per-view companies, if you carry this NWA event, then you'll no longer get the WWF content. Well, the cable companies couldn't really afford that because WWF brought a big audience and a huge pay-per-view audience. So they agreed. They sided with Vince. So they told NWA, we're not going to carry Starrcade. So NWA had to push back Starrcade, and so they started showing it closer to Christmas time. And instead, they started showing the Clash of the Champions on free basic cable to kind of compete with the WWF. So Vince told the pay-per-view companies, I'll give you something on Thanksgiving. Just don't worry about it. We'll give you something that's different that the audience will like. So that's when they came up with this tag team elimination concept. Teams of 5, strive to survive. And in the first one, in 1987, there was actually a women's Survivor Series match, in which I think the winners were the Jumping Bomb Angels. But, there was a number of elimination tag matches, and like I said, the Killer Bees and the Young Stallions won the big 20-man tag match. Now, the good thing about the big 20-man tag elimination match is when one tag team partner got eliminated, both members had to leave. Otherwise, that match would have taken an hour or 2 hours. It was a long match. And so basically, for the first one, the whole idea for the whole night was just to further along the story, or the continued story, of Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, where Hulk Hogan's team was on one side, Andre's team was on the other side, And Andre had a team of mostly big men. You know, he had himself, he had the one-man gang, he had King Kong Bundy, and then he had, I think, Ravishing Rick Rude, and then I believe somebody, I think he had Hercules. But Hercules and Rick Rude were both eliminated. Now, Hulk Hogan, he had guys like Ken Patera and Bam Bam Bigelow, and he had guys like that. And so, you know, Hulk Hogan's team wasn't really that strong. And, in fact, Hogan himself was eliminated during the match. So it was basically Bam Bam Bigelow versus Andre the Giant, One Man Gang, and King Kong Bundy. Like 4 big men. And so basically it was to make Andre come across as strong, because they had a match coming up on Saturday Night Main Event where the Hulk Hogan's championship was going to be on the line. That's where they had the double referee Ted DiBiase, finish. Anyway, but at Survivor Series, Hogan gets eliminated. He's hesitant with leaving ringside. So it's just Bam Bam Bigelow. Now Bam Bam Bigelow has a strong showing. He eliminates King Kong Bundy and the One Man Gang. But then after that, he's so tired, he can't compete with Andre at all. Andre just squashes him, pins him, and Andre wins the main event of the first Survivor Series. So overall, it was a solid event. You know, he had Vince McMahon, or Gorilla Monsoon, and Jesse the Body Ventura, my favorite all-time commentary team. And they also were the commentary team for the next year, 1988. Now, 88 was kind of a different story. First, you had the match with Andre the Giant was in a match, but they basically started a feud with him and Jake the Snake Roberts, where Jake the Snake Roberts' team, all of them got eliminated, and it was just him versus almost all of Andre the Giant's team. So Andre got himself eliminated just because he kept choking Jake out in the corner, wouldn't let go for the referee's count. So the referee disqualified Andre, but the damage was already done, and Jake was pinned and eliminated. But then that's when we learned that Andre the Giant is extremely afraid of snakes, because I believe Jake Roberts came back with the snake and chased Andre out with the snake. Anyway, so then we had the 20-man elimination tag match. Every single babyface tag team at the time, including, the Rockers and Powers of Pain, and this is before Powers of Pain turned heel. And in fact, it was this match where Powers of Pain and Demolition switched. So, it was, and the Brain Busters were on the heel team, and the Fabulous Rougeaus were on the heel team, and it was basically every good guy team at the time and every bad guy tag team at the time. And the bad guy team, I think they were short bad guy tag team, so they brought in the Conquistadors just to fill up a bad guy tag team spot. But the Conquistadors lasted throughout the whole match, surprisingly. And it came down to them and Powers of Pain. But where Demolition and Powers of Pain switched was when Smash was bouncing off the ropes. Mr. Fuji pulled the rope down. Smash goes tumbling to the outside, gets counted out. Demolition gets eliminated. Axe calls out Mr. Fuji. Mr. Fuji hits Axe with a cane. And then the Demolition beat Mr. Fuji up right before they leave ringside. So then Powers of Pain, they help Mr. Fuji up, and then they embrace him as their new manager. They go in, they beat the Conquistadors, win the match. Thus starting a feud between the Powers of Pain and Demolition, which will culminate in a match at WrestleMania 5. Woo! Anyway. So there was that match where there was a switch, and then there was the main event match, which was Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage and their babyface team against the Twin Towers and the $1 Million Man and Haku. And I think the Red Rooster was also in that team. And but obviously Red Rooster wasn't going to win the match, and I think Coco Beware was on the good guy team as well as Hillbilly Jim. But everybody got eliminated except for Haku on the bad guy team, and it came down to Hulk Hogan and Macho Man. Now, but the story of that match was that the Twin Towers got eliminated, but they handcuffed Hulk Hogan to the bottom rope. And Big Boss Man hit Hogan a few times with a nightstick, back when Boss Man was still a heel. So they both left ringside, but Slick, the manager, stayed at ringside taunting Hulk Hogan with the keys to the cuffs. And meanwhile, Macho Man's in there by himself having to contend with Haku. Haku, by the way, I think is an underrated wrestler. I always liked watching him. Just his wrestling style was just... And from what I understand from everybody in the WWE locker room said that he was probably the most legit, toughest guy in the locker room. Like, you did not want to mess with Haku. You didn't want to make him mad because he was legit tough. Anyway, but he, I'm going to put these back on. That's better. So, yeah, so the Twin Towers leave the ring area, but Hogan's down. He's handcuffed to the bottom rope. But he eventually clotheslines Slick. He nails Bobby Heenan. Elizabeth gets the keys from Slick, unlocks Hogan. Hogan eventually tags in from Macho Man accidentally tagging him in. Hogan gets in, beats Haku. And then they start celebrating. Hogan, but then picks up Elizabeth and embraces her. And the Macho Man gets this jealous look on his face like, what are you doing, Hogan? What's up? What are you doing, touching my manager? But anyway, that's all stuff that culminated in the main event at WrestleMania 5. I mean, it's one step along the way that culminated to WrestleMania 5. And I think at that point the Mega Powers were still together. But then, after that, there was a Saturday night main event where we all remember, I think it was actually Friday night main event. So it was just called the main event, where the Mega Powers were wrestling the Twin Towers, and they threw Macho Man to the outside. Macho Man landed on Elizabeth, knocking her out. Hogan carried Elizabeth to the back. Macho Man was left there by Hogan to contend with the Twin Towers, which probably wasn't the best thing to do. He comes back, Macho Man slaps him, leaves Hogan in the ring, but Hogan does beat the Twin Towers by himself. Goes back, and there's this big backstage scene where the Mega Powers basically break up. Macho hits Hogan in the head with a belt, and then we're off to the races for WrestleMania 5. So that was Survivor Series 1988. Both of them were, like I said, in the same venue. Now, I do have to bring up something because I wanted to bring this up, and that is Dangerous Danny Davis, a wrestling referee. Now, Davis was a referee, but then he was involved in a match with, I think, the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation, and he quite clearly screwed over the Bulldogs to give the titles to Hart Foundation. So then he got banned by the WWF from refereeing. So then he became a wrestler. Not a very good one, but a wrestler. And in the 1987 Survivor Series, he actually lasted longer than he should have. Every time he tagged in, he would stomp a couple times in the head, then tag back out. But in the 1988 Survivor Series, he was eliminated immediately. I mean, the good guys weren't messing around. They got him out of there right away. And then I think sometime after that, he went back to refereeing again. I guess he promised the WWF, I won't screw over the good guys anymore, I promise. So they let him wrestle. And then another guy I wanted to bring up was Bad News Brown. So Bad News Brown, they tried a couple different times putting him on a team with the bad guys in Survivor Series, and each and every single time they do, one of his own team members accidentally hits him, and then he gets mad and he leaves. So that's kind of the thing with Bad News Brown. I always kind of liked Bad News Brown, not like him, but I always dug him as a heel, as a bad guy, and I thought he was a believable bad guy. And from what I understand, WWF had every intention of having him have a feud with Hulk. But something went awry. Maybe he wasn't happy with his paydays or something. And he didn't last. He left the WWF. And so, from what I understand, he was all ready. He was all set to face Hogan on house shows, but just it didn't culminate into a major feud. But Hogan liked to work with big guys. He liked to work with guys like Andre the Giant and King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd. He liked guys like that. Earthquake, Anyway, that was Survivor Series 87 and 88. I don't have a DVD or anything to show you because my DVDs, I don't have the WWE Network right now on Peacock because we don't have internet at my house. I'm not going to pay for a streaming service that I can't really use. So once we get internet hooked back up here, I'm going to resubscribe to Peacock or wherever the WWE Network is at the time. So, but I have a couple of DVDs of the first two. I have 87 and 88. I have 91, and then I believe I have 94 and 98. So I have those few survivors here, but they're basically burned copies of the anthology. The weird thing about the Survivor Series anthology is Volume 1 and 2 was it. Basically 87 through 96. After that, they stopped putting out anthology DVD series. That's when the WWF said, oh, well, we're not really doing that anymore. We're just putting out different types of DVDs. I think what it is they want as little as people as possible to see that 97 Survivor Series because we all remember what happened at the 1997 Survivor Series with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. We all remember that. I'm not going to go into it because it's been done to death, and that may or may not be the case. Maybe they really did just stop doing anthology. But my thing is, okay, WWE, if you're wanting to stop doing, that type of thing, wait until you're done completing the anthology set and then stop doing that. You had the Royal Rumble anthology, which was complete. SummerSlam anthology, which was complete. WrestleMania anthology, which was completed. And when I say completed, I mean there were 4 volumes. So, I don't know, they could have easily had 4 volumes of Survivor Series. But no, they just have Volume 1 and 2. And after 96, though, you have to get them individually if you want them on DVD. So, anyway, that's going to do it for this DVD. What did you think of the first couple Survivor Series? Leave me in the comments below. And if you're new here, please go ahead and like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.